Pirates, ninjas, Vikings. Let's take a walk around the shop. You can see how I've got things laid out, and there'll be a few surprises along the way. Like this one. Where did the shop go? Well, back before I got the shop, we were building things on the stage. So everything had to move. And so everything was on wheels. And since I was getting the floors done, everything had to go. So it all went on the stage. And as I bring it back, I'll explain some of my thought processes. So this shop used to be a choir room. So in 2019, there was some construction. The choir room moved to another location, and I finally got a permanent shop. Now this room is 49 feet by 43 feet. And of course, in this room, there's my office and a computer networking room. So altogether, I have 1,900 square feet of space. I also have 20-foot ceilings. But the best part of looking up are these high bay light fixtures. In fact, the best thing about this shop is how bright it is. So starting at the main entrance, I've got a whole wall of sanders. Because we're building props and furniture and scenery, I use a wide variety of sanding devices. Over in the corner is the dust collection system, which is kind of noisy. So the current project is trying to figure out how to absorb all the sound while still allowing enough airflow through. Under the sanding table are 2 road boxes full of casters. And I have this rolling dumpster that when I first started here, everyone called a gondola. Now, when I say gondola, I think of a boat in Italy, but that's what they call them here, so that's what I'm calling this. If you call it something different, leave a note in the comments. Now, along this wall is the whole miter saw station. I've got a 12-inch miter saw and a stop block sliding fence. And because this is a theater, we reuse a lot of the lumber. So as walls and platforms come down and get disassembled, so the good lumber gets stored here and reused for other productions. Under the miter saw are some miscellaneous bins. This one holds small pieces of plywood, and this other one holds small pieces of 2x4 that are bigger than a foot but shorter than 2 foot. And our small but mighty air compressor. This one's great because it's quiet. It's hooked up to a pressure regulator, which then goes up into the ceiling and has drop-down hoses. The air hoses are the orange ones, and the yellow-black ones are power drops. There's also 2 more road boxes that are full of casters. And in between the miter saw station and the paint sink, there are a few more tools. There's a drill press, there's a lathe that gets moved somewhere else when we use it, and a bandsaw. And then finally our paint cart and the paint sink. The paintbrushes are stored on this cart. This is also on wheels. Paintbrushes are on one side, rolling sticks, buckets, and paint trays. Then along this wall is where we used to have the paint, but I moved that around the corner. Of course, it's right next to a microwave. So that's everything on these 3 walls. Moving to the center, the heart of the shop is the table saw. Now this table saw is far enough away from the wall that I can cut a 16-foot 2x4. And of course I need an outfeed table, and I also have a side table because depending on what size piece of plywood I'm cutting, I can use the additional support on that side of the table saw. And because some of the boards I'm cutting might be long, I also have an in-feed table. which is just a table that holds up the long end of boards or plywood. On the side of the table saw is the planer joiner. Now I know these are smaller tools, but given the type of work we do in the shop, this is the right size for us. And it gets hooked up to a cyclone dust collector. And the scrap garbage can lives on the other side. So over to our last wall, where I have a small hardware shop. I need a place to keep everything round, so dowels and pipes all live there. Next to that, in the green bins, are all carriage bolts and lag bolts and hex bolts. And then there are bins full of assorted screws, nuts, and washers. Getting into the tools, there is the battery recharge center, which holds all the screw guns and some of the other cordless tools. Then there's the tape shelves, and in the top right corner, I'm going to put a link to the short that I filmed on how I built this. And then the other tool cabinet, full of all your standard woodworking tools. And next to that, in the blue bins, are lots of fastening devices, drywall screws, nails, and staples. Moving on, I have the Norm Abram clamp cart. This ladder-like cart holds clamps on both sides. I got the squeeze clamps on one side and the pipe clamps on the other. Next to that is my version of Adam Savage's plywood shelf, which you see every time he's working in his shop. This is just designed to hold various pieces of plywood. And then there's the rack where I keep my full sheets of plywood. Now what I don't have is a proper place to store 4x4 sheets of plywood. They won't fit in the one rack, and they don't work very well in the full-size rack. I did kind of put them in there because I was getting the floors done, but they don't have a regular home in this shop. Behind that door is the network switch room that maybe gets entered once a month, so we keep a backpack cart in front of it. It's on wheels and can move anytime someone needs access to that room. In front of the tool cabinet is the workbench. It's a higher table that weighs a lot and also has the only vise in the whole shop. Around the table are other things we use for construction, like sawhorses, the small sawhorses, and the elevated fans. More information cards in the top right corner, one on how to build these sawhorses. And another on how to build this fan stand. There's also some work tables in the shop. These are all on wheels. It can make one big table or 3 separate tables. And of course, I've got a 3D printer that's on a cart. And what shop doesn't have a cart that's full of lumber that doesn't have a home, but is too good to throw away? So the shop is loaded back in. Everything's in its place. Now all is left to do is to start building a show. Construction normally happens in this room, and then things are moved to the stage to get painted. And from there, the entire set gets built. And while 1,900 square feet sounds like a lot of space, once everything is in here and we're starting to build something, we quickly run out of room. So that's the way I've got the shop laid out this year. I'm sure in the future some things will change, some things will stay the same, but that's the space I'm working in. Thanks for taking the tour with me. Now I gotta go build something.